The year is 2016, and the Cars diecast line is continuing with the series system that it adopted back in 2013. Every year, we receive 12 different series in the main line, based on different scenes, themes, and locations from the two Cars movies, giving us new releases and re-releases from those particular themes. Outside of the main line, we're now firmly in the era of having store-exclusive expanded universe lines, such as the TROC, which saw the launch of the Carbon Racers and Carnival Racers this year, as well as the Route 66 Road Trip series, giving us brand new toy line exclusive designs for the Radiator Springs characters, and what was really the first ever expanded universe toy line exclusive Radiator Springs themed line. Typically, the non-mainline series focus on different racer variants, but it was really nice to get some Radiator Springs cars, and I wanted to give a special shout out to the Road Trip series, as it is one of my all-time favorite expanded universe lines. 2016 is an incredibly solid year. In fact, I've said it several times now, but it's actually my all-time favorite year for the Cars diecast line. I think this year had an absolutely perfect mix of great new releases from Cars and Cars 2. Yeah, this year gave us so much great stuff, and there was a really good balance between both of the movies. From Cars 1, we got some really good releases like the finally uncanceled Dan Skarkenberg alongside Kim Carlin's, Transforming McQueen, one of the easily coolest Cars diecasts of probably all time. Literally every car in the Rusty's Racing series that was new could have been my pick for this video. Andy Vaporlock, Michael Sparkburg, Craig Faster, all absolutely incredible items. We had the LA Speedway series this year with cars like Studs McGirdle, Brian Thieclamp, and Coriander Wide-Track's parents, as well as a corrected Coriander Wide-Track, a bunch of cool lemons, such as Jerome Ramped here, and a few others in the Oil Rig Getaway line, and some very, very cool character variants like Mater with Balloon, Artist Ramon, and McQueen and Mater with no tires, and that's not even mentioning the plethora of World Grand Prix pit crew members we got this year, Cars 2 background characters from the Paris Parts Market, and Bud, an insanely cool RV Super Chase. Oh my gosh, this year was absolutely incredible. It didn't really innovate the line, it didn't really change all that much, but it just did so much right. On the re-release side, we had Bessie back, and one of the Dynaco showgirls. It really is an absolutely fantastic and incredibly well-balanced year. And while I'll always remember it as, in my opinion, one of, if not the best years ever for this toy line, it certainly does have some issues. Easily, the biggest negative thing you're going to think of when you think about the 2016 Cars diecast line is the Cars Daredevil Garage app, a Toys to Life game released in mid-2015, which started taking over the packaging of Cars diecast with this little ad showing you that you could download it. It started here on the corner of every single Cars packaging in 2015, and in 2016 it continued, and a few months in completely took over the back of the packaging. So instead of seeing, the series description and then other cars you could get from that series like usual, you would instead see the series description and an ad for this game. A game that was very heavily disliked by Cars fans. The gameplay was really not all that fun or interesting, and honestly, while a Toys to Life scan in your Cars diecasts and play as them game is pretty cool, the scanning was absolutely terrible. I've told this story many times before, but I tried to scan in like a Mater or something, and it came up as the Circus Forklift. The Circus Forklift. Guido repaint with a clown nose and a poofy red hat. The Circus Forklift. The Super Chase. How was it that bad? I don't know. But another thing that happened in 2016 was the Daredevil Garage app was shut down. By late 2016, the Daredevil Garage app just died out, and by like November's wave of Cars, it was no longer being advertised on the packaging. It seems it failed, so they stopped advertising it, which is great because, a new Cars movie came out in 2017, and it would have been awful if the Cars 3 diecasts were full of Daredevil Garage app logos. Speaking of things that died off in 2016, I should also mention that this was the year that the Planes diecast line ended. Planes, of course, was a Cars spinoff that released in 2013, and it had a pretty solid diecast line showing, with a bunch of different characters made to be compatible with the Cars diecast line. Definitely a little bit out of scale compared to the Cars diecast line, but they were meant to go together. It ran in 2013, continued into 2014 when the Planes sequel came out, and in 2015 and 2016, it adopted the exact same series concept that the Cars line was using, but to a much lesser extent. By early 2016, the Planes diecast line was dying out. I remember hearing at the time people saying that a bunch of Planes releases were just being rushed out. Like, basically all the 2016 items were coming out in late 2015, and by 2016, very few items were left. While there were plans to continue the Planes line into 2017, the entire 2017 lineup was completely canceled, and again, those 2016 items were mostly rushed the year before. So this year, we lost the Daredevil Garage app, which was good. We lost the Planes line, which is completely understandable. It wasn't super popular, but still a shame because it did give us some very good items. In spite of all that, the Cars diecast line itself was, again, in my opinion, incredibly strong and brought us an incredibly solid year. And today, I'm taking a look at my favorite item from it. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to 20 Years of Favorites, a series where I take a look at my favorite Cars diecast from each year to celebrate 20 years of Cars. It's absolutely crazy to think that 2016 was 10 years ago, and that in 2016, we were celebrating the 10th anniversary of Cars. As great as this year's lineup was, unfortunately, they didn't do anything for the anniversary, but I could say that in 2026, they've more than overcorrected missing previous Cars anniversaries. For today's review, it was honestly pretty hard for me to decide. I'm sure many of you expected me to review Bud, which is an item that means a lot to me because it was the first ever car I reviewed on this channel. I had so many different options. Like I said, I was really considering some of the Rusty's Racing series cars. But, you know, I just kept coming back to this guy right here. Jerome Ramped, a pacer from the Oil Rig Gutaway series, one of 3 Lemons with Torches released this year. And actually, I completely forgot. So before I completely forget, I do want to list off what series were out in 2016. I know I kind of talked about what new releases and re-releases were there, but I've been mentioning what series we got each year in these episodes, so I'm sorry. Let me just go through them. This year we had Piston Cup, Dynaco Daydream, which was new, Rusty's Racing, returning from 2013, Radiator Springs, LA Speedway, which was new, Oil Rig Getaway, which was new, and which is where Jerome came from, alongside 2 other Lemons with Torches and some Lemon re-releases and new Grim and Acer variants, 95 Returns, which kind of took over the Wheelwell Motel Meldorado show series from 2013 and 14, World Grand Prix Pit Crew, Paris Parts Market, those 2 were new, and of course the Super Chase line. I'm sorry, I just realized when I was doing the intro that I forgot that. So I just wanted to bring that up. So yeah, Jerome here, one of 3 Lemons with Torches. And I think he's just such a great release. I think he is solidly my favorite from this year. He's one that's always stood out to me. I absolutely love that we got 3 Lemons with Torches. This trio that we got a close-up of kind of approaching Finn McMissile on the oil rig. There were a ton of Lemons with Torches there, but we kind of focus on 3, and we got those 3. The Lemons are such a great group of characters, and they're so fun to army build and get different background variants of. Having these guys, who are some of the most obscure background Lemons we've gotten, is just really, really nice. I'd love to get the other 2 someday, but they're both insanely expensive. Jerome's paintwork here is absolutely excellent. He has a bit of a matte feel to him, but I think he's one of the Lemons that best illustrates the fact that these are rusty, beaten-up cars that are sort of patchwork together, right? As you can see, pretty close match to what we have on his card art. I didn't even realize, I completely forgot Jerome was the car I have on my background for 2016. So now we've reviewed the car on my background 2 weeks in a row, which is pretty funny. But hey, I picked a lot of my favorite items or items that interest me for my background, so that's why. I absolutely love the weathering detailing, the very subtle rusty detailing on Jerome's visor here. The facial expression is really, really great. All the dust and rust and dirt detailing all over him. Really, really well done. And as I showed earlier on in the review, his visor does actually lift up, showing you the face underneath, which is super nice, and something that previous Pacers with torches that we got didn't do. This year, they decided to do that, which is really, really nice. Very happy that they decided to add that feature. It's just really fun. A lot of cars that have pieces that, you know, could move or maybe should move don't have moving pieces. So to have this just be an additional feature, even though I don't believe you see him with the visor up in the movie, is just such a nice touch. And it gives you that extra level of playability that a lot of cars don't have. You know, a lot of cars, like I said, that could have play features, really don't. He, of course, has his road hug tires, a detail I always thought was very funny with the lemons. More great dirt detailing here. We have his two sort of tanks back here for the flamethrower, which, of course, comes out here. It's pretty funny how this works. We have the cord, which disappears into the car, and oh, okay, now the flamethrower is coming out of the bottom. So I guess it's like supposed to be connected to his bottom, but they didn't fully detail that. People often bring up that previous Pacers with torches actually had removable tanks, whereas the ones in this line have them completely stuck in there. I don't think that the tanks being removable was supposed to be like an intentional play feature. It's just something that wasn't secured. So when they made these, they did secure it. But hey, we did get a new play feature, of course, with that visor. The flamethrower itself is really nicely detailed. Like many cars' accessories, it is attached to the area right above the wheel to represent how cars' characters hold things with their wheels. And, you know, that's kind of hit or miss sometimes. We have a lot of accessories that don't do a super good job at making it look like the car is holding something. But this does a really, really great job, I think, at making it look like he's holding this. It's attached in, I believe, 2 places, right? Here. And actually, no, it's just in one place, actually. This is just resting here. And it looks really realistically like the character is holding it. The flamethrower itself looks pretty good. It even has a bit of darker coloring on the tip of the flamethrower, it looks like, to make it look like the area has been a bit more burnt. Right? Or is that just the lighting? Yeah, it is a bit darker there. Very, very cool. But there you have it, guys. Jerome Ramped, a character that I really love. I think it's just such a great background character, and my favorite item from what is easily my favorite Year of the Cars diecast line. Anyway, guys, thank you all so much for watching this episode of 20 Years of Favorites, and stay tuned for next week when we enter a whole new world for the Cars diecast line with the launch of Cars 3. Bye now.